In today's episode of I Love Lucy, Ricky, Fred, Lucy, and Ethel were sitting at Ricky's house after dinner. Fred had clearly eaten more than enough and wasn't feeling well. Ricky chimed in, saying he too had eaten too much and could hardly move. Seeing their condition, Ethel mentioned to Lucy how funny they looked. Lucy added that they looked like Porky and Fatso. Fred protested, "No kidding around when we're this full," adding that it was their fault for putting too much food on the table. Ethel shot back that they didn't have to eat everything in sight. Fred defended himself, saying he only ate 12 oysters. Lucy corrected him, saying he ate 16. Shocked, Ethel asked Fred if he really ate 16 oysters. Fred admitted that Lucy's count was right. "I was doing it for you, Ethel," Fred explained. "I was trying to find you a pearl." Lucy pointed out that Ricky had eaten more than anyone else, and Ricky agreed. Fred insisted it was Lucy and Ethel's fault for putting so much food on the table. Ethel admitted that she loved eating. It was her hobby. Lucy claimed that she don't need to worry about this, saying whatever she ate didn't turn to fat. Ricky objected to Lucy's claim. Lucy fired back that she was the same weight as when they got married. Ricky laughed mockingly, but Lucy stood firm. Ricky told Lucy that he, Fred, and Ethel all agreed they'd gained a little weight, and Lucy should admit the same. Lucy retorted that she'd gladly join their tubby trio if it were true, but it wasn't. Ethel urged Lucy to be reasonable and accept the truth, but Lucy insisted she was still 110 pounds, the same as when they got married. Ricky smiled and went to get a scale. Lucy claimed it was broken, but Ricky said he'd fixed it that morning. Lucy perched on the sofa's arm, feigning boredom and suggesting they change the subject. Ethel disagreed. "Whose side are you on?" Lucy asked. Annoyed, Ethel declared she was siding with Ricky and his puppy pal, Fred. Ricky returned with the scale. He and Ethel helped Lucy onto it. Lucy confidently asked for her weight. Sure, she'd be proven right. When the scale showed 132 pounds, Lucy was shocked in disbelief. Ethel welcomed her to the flabby foursome on behalf of the tubby trio. Ricky tried to move on, asking what they should do that evening. Lucy was clearly upset about her weight. Ricky assured her it was fine, but Lucy wouldn't hear it. Ethel tried to comfort her, telling her not to cry about it. The encouragement didn't work. Lucy declared herself a big, bloated bunch of blubber. Ricky tried to console her, saying he liked her as she was. This only made Lucy cry harder. Ricky quickly clarified that he meant it in a good way. Lucy responded that she wasn't worried about his opinion, but rather how she'd look on stage now. "What stage?" Ricky asked. Realizing she was talking about show business again, Ricky told her it wouldn't work. Lucy replied that she knew he didn't want her in show business, but someday she'd prove him wrong. Just then, the telephone rang. Ricky answered and learned that Joanne, one of his dancers, was leaving her job. Frustrated, he asked Jerry to prepare for auditions, adding that the girls needed to fit into Joanne's costume. Ricky announced to the group that Joanne was leaving. Fred asked who Joanne was, but Ricky ignored him. Lucy inquired why Joanne was leaving, and Ricky explained she was getting married. Fred asked again who Joanne was, only to be ignored once more. When Ethel also asked about Joanne, Lucy explained that she was one of Ricky's dancers at the club. Fred looked disappointed, wondering aloud what he'd done wrong to miss out on such opportunities. Ricky worried about finding a new girl who could both dance and sing, plus learn the routine by Saturday night. Lucy's eyes lit up, and she began singing and dancing around Ricky, trying to ignore her at first. Ricky finally got annoyed and asked her to stop. But Lucy kept dancing and singing, prompting Ricky to ask if something was wrong with her. Still dancing, Lucy announced that there was a pretty, talented, and young lady in the room, a wonderful dancer and singer. "Who?" Ricky asked. "Ethel?" Lucy revealed she meant herself, adding that she knew his club routine and could perform it better than anyone. Ricky said it wasn't possible. When Lucy asked why, he bluntly replied, "Because you're fat." Lucy protested that was the wrong reason, but Ricky reminded her she'd agreed about her weight moments ago. Lucy backtracked, saying she'd only gained a little weight. Ethel suggested to Fred that they leave the couple alone, but Fred insisted it was getting entertaining and they should stay, adding that Ethel wouldn't need to spy on them through their bathroom window anymore. Lucy asked them to stay as witnesses and pleaded with Ricky to give her the same opportunity as other girls, a chance to audition. Ricky reluctantly agreed, but insisted it would be strictly business. She'd have to pretend she didn't know him. When Ricky asked if she understood, Lucy paused before declaring she didn't know him already. She and Ethel shared a laugh. The next day, Lucy and Ethel arrived at the audition to find several other girls already waiting. When Lucy asked if this was where the audition was being held, the girls sarcastically remarked they would have brought their mothers if they'd known it was for older women. Lucy was hurt, but Ethel cheered her up. When Lucy tried to sit next to the other girls, one told her she wasn't Ricky Ricardo's type and should leave. Lucy just stared at her in response. After observing the other girls, Lucy adjusted her appearance to match theirs, rolling up her sleeves and pant legs. Ricky arrived, apologizing for being late. All the girls, including Lucy, greeted him enthusiastically. Perhaps Lucy a bit too enthusiastically, making Ricky nervous. He asked them to line up and had the pianist start playing. While the other girls danced well, Lucy stood out, and not in a good way. Ricky stopped the music and asked if they were all size 12. The other girls quickly confirmed they were, while Lucy hesitated before agreeing, knowing whoever got the job needed to fit Joanne's costume. Ricky called Lucy forward and asked her name. "McGillicuddy," she replied. He told her to try on the costume. Lucy and Ethel rushed to the changing room. Several minutes passed. Ricky, growing impatient, called out, asking if she was ready. "Almost done," Lucy called back. "Just need to fasten it." After several more prompts from Ricky, strange noises emerged from the changing room. Finally, Lucy appeared in the costume, or rather, squeezed into it. The dress was clearly torn where she'd forced herself into it. The other girls laughed while Lucy nervously commented that it must be a very small size 12. Frustrated, Ricky began speaking in Spanish. He told Lucy he'd now need to get another costume. Lucy offered to sew it herself, but Ricky refused. He told her to change back into her clothes and leave the costume. They'd call if she was selected. Undeterred, Lucy asked if she could have the job if she could fit into the dress. Ricky said it wasn't possible in 4 days, but Lucy assured him she could do it. Ricky agreed, mostly to get rid of her. Lucy told Ethel she had 4 days to lose weight. When Ethel asked if she really wanted to go through with it, Lucy responded with absolute determination. The next scene showed Ethel with a stopwatch and notepad, timing Lucy as she ran laps around their house. When Lucy finally completed her last lap, she was exhausted. Ethel congratulated her and suggested she rest. Lucy collapsed onto the sofa, but seconds later, Ethel announced her rest period was over. Lucy struggled to her feet as Ethel handed her a jump rope, instructing her to do 500 jumps before dinner. Lucy shook her head. Ethel lowered it to 200, then 100, but Lucy still refused. Finally, Ethel told her to do as many as she could manage. Lucy fell against Ethel, who helped her stand. After a few jumps, Lucy gave up and collapsed on the sofa. Though concerned, Ethel praised her hard work and suggested they check her weight. It took several attempts and Ethel's help for Lucy to get on the scale. Ethel announced she'd lost almost 2 pounds in 3 days. Lucy looked disappointed, but Ethel encouraged her, pointing out she only had 10 pounds left to lose. When Ethel suggested a shower, Lucy fell onto the table. Ethel offered to get her dinner, and suddenly Lucy perked up. However, she couldn't move on her own, so Ethel had to push her in the right direction. That evening, Ethel served steak to Fred and Ricky, while Lucy watched longingly. Ethel brought out another plate of steak and a plate of salad, giving Lucy the salad and keeping the steak for herself. Lucy's disappointment was palpable. Everyone but Lucy enjoyed their dinner, ignoring her obvious hunger. When Fred asked Ricky to pass the potatoes, Lucy stared at them as if she hadn't eaten in days. She managed to snag one with her fork, but Ethel quickly stopped her. When Fred gave his dog Butch a piece of steak, Lucy watched enviously. After Butch ate his portion, Lucy announced she was going to rest, but Ethel noticed her heading toward the kitchen and warned her to stay out. Lucy returned, crawling on her hands and knees and hiding under the table. Butch noticed her, and she pulled him under with her. When Ricky offered Butch another piece of steak, Lucy grabbed it instead, pushing the dog aside when he tried to get his treat. Butch's protests shook the table, and Fred asked who was underneath. Lucy replied, "Nobody, just a dog." Ricky discovered her and demanded she come out. Lucy responded by barking and announcing she was going to the bakery to smell bread. On Saturday, Ethel arrived for Lucy's workout to find her sitting in a box. Lucy explained it was a human pressure cooker she'd rented. When Ethel expressed concern, Lucy revealed she still had 5 pounds to lose in 5 hours. Ethel warned that staying in the machine for 5 more hours could be fatal, but Lucy asked her to return at 6. When Ethel returned, she found the machine empty except for a towel, Panicked, she began crying over the loss of her friend until Lucy walked in, exhausted but triumphant. She'd lost the required weight and was ready for her performance. When Ethel asked about the other girl Ricky had hired, Lucy mysteriously replied that she'd taken care of that. That night at the club, Ricky began his performance, and Lucy appeared on stage in the costume. Though initially terrified, Ricky was relieved to see Lucy performing well. They completed the routine together to enthusiastic applause. However, Lucy soon collapsed and ended up in bed with a doctor present. She weakly asked if she needed to perform every night. Ricky praised her wonderful performance, but explained she wouldn't be able to continue. The doctor had ordered 3 weeks of bed rest due to malnutrition. As Lucy was being taken to the hospital, she handed Ethel a key to a back door. When the confused Ethel opened it, she found the other performer Ricky had hired locked inside, explaining how Lucy had ensured her solo performance.